Story time. This is taking us way back.
Yeah, it is.
Way back. Wow. You're gonna have to tell most of this story.
So is this just when we were
When Whitney and I had first started dating.
Okay.
Whitney and I had first started dating. I was working for a very large material company, getting a paycheck.
You were enjoying it there too at the time,
I loved
right?
it. Getting a paycheck, doing what I loved, and I lived in this apartment community with the sexiest, leasing director or leasing manager?
When we got the detached garage?
Yeah.
I was the manager of the whole community. So.
Sorry, I didn't know you were talking.
No, it's fine.
So yeah, Whitney and I were dating, and I had these aspirations of starting my own company.
Right.
Remember?
Concrete countertops initially.
Concrete countertops.
We shut that down fairly quickly, but we did start our first lab for that.
We started our first lab and we were teaching classes too, and we were trying to sell a product.
Right.
So we had a concrete called Yadocrete.
Right.
Which was Hebrew. Yado is Hebrew for green.
Yeah.
And we were creating a green concrete for countertops. And you could bring if you brought your buckets in, if you recycled your buckets to get new material, you got a rebate. And I was so proud of myself for creating a calculator, to create an invoice that would take it to the recycling account. And the amount of work that there wasn't a market for it then. We were teaching classes at the John Hand Theater.
Right, in Denver.
In Denver.
Lowry. Yeah.
And I would, even when we were living in Jersey, I'd come back and teach that class. Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah, it was.
What was it?
It was
Concrete
countertops.
How to
for
make
people how to make them.
countertop.
And then people were just like, fuck, this is difficult. Do you know anybody who makes concrete countertops? I was like, I might. Ding!
Yeah.
So anyway, we had our first facility.
Right.
And we're in the state of Colorado, if you didn't know. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And we're about 5,000 to 6,000 feet above sea level. This is at Saddle Creek Golf Course.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was a great golf course.
It was.
Beautiful. Beautiful golf course.
Yeah.
Detached garages were not as...
Oh my gosh. No insulation.
No insulation.
So that was our very first lab.
No electricity besides a light.
There was an outlet up where the singular light bulb was.
It was a good thing I went to Surprise Lake Camp as a kid.
To test it out?
Because that's how we survived. We didn't have electrical outlets at the time. We had a light outlet, and then you screwed in a light outlet that has two plugs. Did you know that? That has two plugs in it, and that's how we got our electricity.
So with the two plugs, we had one for the mixer. And we had one for the heater because it was so cold.
How did that breaker stay on?
Handle a heater and a mixer.
And the light bulb.
And it was that Cushla mixer, so it was a decent size
motor.
Right.
I mean, that was moving, and plus the heater is a decent size heater.
Right, I know.
Having that heater on this circuit trips the breaker.
Well, we've got a lot of equipment though. We have a lot going on.
Anyway, it didn't make sense that it worked. And we actually have a picture of it. Ding! Did you know we have a picture of it?
No.
There's a picture of Whitney and I working on our very first countertop. No, was it a countertop?
I think we're just running mixes for the class.
I think it's either we were running mixes for the class or
because the first countertop was Wes's that you did.
No. We were making a sign for the John Hand Theater.
Oh, that's what it was.
So we worked at the John Hand Theater, and John Hand was, I think, a philanthropist, or just started this concept, this theater, and his sister ended up taking over. But they did night classes for adults, basically. And they had a theater too, I guess.
So this John decided that we were going to do a sign for them.
We had a projector.
And
I bought a projector online.
Right.
That's where that transparency device that you just used came from. And we had they had the John Hand Theater logo.
Which is written like John Hancock, right? That really pretty script.
Calligraphy, or it's script or a little bit of calligraphy.
Right.
So we printed it out or onto a transparency device paper, projected it onto blah, blah, blah. Extruded polystyrene. Cut it out. Then what we did some texturing in there too.
Cut it out with
X-Acto knives. And then we did different colors. We did red for the letters. We did a white backdrop. We did green for the borders.
It was quite the project.
Some beautiful fibers in there. Some polypropylene fibers to give it a little bit more durability after if it started cracking out in the elements.
Right.
And then.
So we like finish it.
And
we strip the mold. And then we realized that we did not do a mirror image of it for the sign, so it was
opposite.
So
cured concrete.
Backwards, and that was that. And we are talking literally like weeks of work.
That's what I think that picture was. We had friends that we were working with, and we were supposed to do it in their garage, but then they ended up bailing on us for whatever reason. So we ended up getting this garage and creating our own lab, and they had a nice insulated heated garage with electricity and tables.
Well, it was attached to a house, like it was yeah.
So they ended up bailing, so we had to create this last minute thing, and we weren't giving up. That was the thing, it was, and I was talking about you and me.
He was not giving up.
Hey, listen.
I was happy to throw in the towel.
You say that, and that is your, and I'm not trying to do this on camera, call you on camera, but I was just talking about us. I've had a lot of companies, and most of them failed. The difference between those companies and the failures in my life has been you. You're my balance. So you might not have been the perseverance, you might have been the support. And what I mean support is that heater that was hooked up, it was on max, and Whitney is standing like 2 inches
so cold
from it like this in sweatpants and a sweatshirt reading the mix design as I am all over the lab, and you see like on the left side is all the buckets that are stacked up, and then on the right side is the materials, and then you have the table, and you have the mixer somewhere in between. And then what I did is I figured out how to create a concrete basin from combining cardboard boxes. So I taped all these cardboard boxes into this 1 foot high basin.
Right.
And I even created a filter system so it would filter out the solids.
Right.
And then, I don't know how, but after we got done making this thing, I took this cardboard thing.
We did. She left it.
I dragged it out, so it was me and you. It had to have been like 400 or 500 pounds. And somehow,
left it over to the dumpster.
We got it in the dumpster though.
Did we? I
yeah.
We just
Yeah. It got in the dumpster. And I'm trying to remember how, and I think my body has
forgotten that.
Yeah. Like it is like there's a chemical
getting Sophia in the crib the other day by herself.
Yeah, so somehow through the perseverance and the support, whatever you want to call it, this balance that we have. And I guess the lesson from this story time was, first of all, we don't like doing concrete countertops. No, we're bad. I'm bad.
It's the finishing.
My best friend.
That's a lot trickier than people think.
Our first customer was our best friend. Was my best friend. Yep. Where we made this wraparound concrete countertop for him in
California.
What part of California? Fairfield, California. In the back of his house around his barbecue, and we did brown color.
It was like a terracotta. It turned out really nice.
I tried to do like a cutting board area that it sloped down, but the form broke and it kind of like bowed in, and then the concrete took the form of the plywood that we poured up against. I wanted to use melamine, but they didn't have it, so I painted it and it didn't work. So we came back later and I was polishing it with a wet polisher, but it was a cheap wet polisher and I kept getting electrocuted. So what Whitney and I figured out is we hate making countertops. And when we gave up that business, it was called B&B Premier Concrete.
Right.
B&B Premier Concrete. And what did Dad say about our logo?
Looks like you just scribbled some stuff on a piece of paper, which we had.
We did. We literally did that.
Exactly what we did.
So when we started Intelligent Concrete, Whitney said, because the B&B Premier Concrete was a concept between a buddy of mine
Right.
and my concept. And it just was a poor concept. But when we started out Intelligent Concrete, Whitney asked the question, remember where you were?
I don't.
What do you want to do
Oh,
with
right.
Intelligent Concrete? And I said,
You want to talk
I want
about concrete.
people to pay me to talk about concrete. And Whitney said,
That's a great idea.
let's do that. And I said,
No one's going to pay me to talk about concrete.
and Whitney said,
We'll worry about that later.
literally.
How do you remember these things?
They're,
They're
as you
ingrained.
and Ricky like go through your relationship, like you'll just have kind of these. It's not every conversation, but there's some of these very.
I don't know, I memorized.
Okay, you know how you remember it? You have to also look at the background. We were living with my mom and dad. It was the recession. We both had lost our jobs. I was working for a movie director, stocking
Right.
or
Organizing
organizing
the
shelves for
stockroom.
$20 an hour.
And I was an
And this was under the table. We were making money under the table for a certain period of time.
right.
And even with that and the little money that we were collecting from the job I had at the university, we were barely making it. So then Whitney came up with the idea, and we had a company that was doing even worse, a concrete company that was failing. And then Whitney says, hey, do you want to try to fail at something else? Like, if we're already failing, let's just throw shit at the wind and see if we get gold back.
Well, that was like we were living with his folks too. So one of the great things is like we knew we had a place
Yeah.
to stay. So and we didn't have kids yet. So it was just. And it's never an easy time, but it was just kind of like if we're really gonna try it, like this is when we need to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And we just did not stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what 85% means.
No, not at all. I feel like 85 is pretty good.
For all my college professors, I don't apologize. I deserved every fucking point I fought for. I'm 100% every single.
You're way more than.
Go to
100%.
Sophia's. No, I'm 100%. There's no more than 100%. You
Mhm.
can't do 110%. To me, that's unrealistic. I can give 100% of what I can do every moment of the day. When I painted my daughter's room, oh my gosh, when we were in that makeshift lab making a concrete sign that eventually ended up going into the garbage,
Right.
I gave every ounce of my being. Whitney tempers that.
Right, because you have to pick your priorities.
Well, and then also when you're making a sold product, you have to be okay to have, there's that saying, every perfect tapestry has its flaw. And sometimes as the creator, you see too many of those flaws to realize the perfection of the tapestry.
Well, and then there's the other side too of it where, what effort does it take you to get to 85, 90%? And most people don't even know that that's only 85 or 90%. And then how much effort does it take to get that last 10 to 15%? And honestly, I think it's often more than what it took to get to the 85 or 90. So it's like, are you really working smarter or just harder?
Right.
For the sake of, right.
Especially if you're starting a new business. We have a lot of friends who are getting the itch to start a new business, and then that night of having a few glasses of wine, you wake up the next day and you're like, what did I just do?
Right.
We haven't had any friends who quit their jobs that same night.
Right.
But at least commit themselves to 3 months of doing something with
Right.
a few $1,000s. And that could be a very scary thing. And it's supposed to be scary. And how do we remember those things? The fear of failure etches it into your cerebral cortex. Time can't get rid of what that fear did to you. Because it made you stronger, made you tougher. The Israelis have a word, it's a fruit, it's called a sabra. And they call Israeli sabras, which they're thick and leathery on the outside and sweet on the inside. And that's what we're doing here. When you develop your own business, at least for us, we went through those scary times where we had to learn who we are, who we wanted to be. And I think, this is a good series on that. Let's end this off for today, because I think we got another one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, blah, blah, blah. End scene!
Go concrete!
Paid asphalt!
Well, that was, okay.
Sorry. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. End scene.
And ding that bell for notifications. Go concrete.
Be asphalt.
End scene.